Are you going to say in Cabinet, number one, we should cancel this loan in favor of steel and aluminum and shipbuilding here in Canada, yes or no?
I have been very clear.
Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. Smash the like, hit subscribe, get your Canadian federal politics right here.
Minister, the ink isn't even dry on President Trump's latest executive order, basically targeting Canada for 35%. Our steel and aluminum workers, they are scared. And yet here we have an opportunity to be able to fund here in Canada, the elbows up, Canada strong rhetoric that your government has been putting out. We can stop this loan by the Canada Infrastructure Bank, and we can go to the table with BC Ferries and plan to do it and support our steel and aluminum workers here and shipbuilders here in this country. Are you standing by the loan?
Thank you, Mr. Albas, for your question. And I do want to start by saying I know that the wildfires are touching your constituency, and I want to say I support you and your constituents, and the federal government is here to provide any support they need. I totally agree with you that this is a moment of crisis for the Canadian steel and aluminum sectors, and they need our government's support. They need our country's support. I was on the phone this morning with the CEO of one of our steel companies and was in touch with one of our union leaders, as well as talking to the CEO of C-SPAN. My approach right now is to ensure that in the areas under my control, the areas that Transport Canada has responsibility for, we are pushing for Canadian workers in the manufacturing sector and for the use of Canadian steel and aluminum. That's why I sent out 71 letters in June to all the agencies I'm responsible for. That's why I'm convening a meeting specifically ensuring that we are building ferries in Canada using Canadian steel, and why I will be convening a meeting to do the same thing with the rail sector.
Minister, it sounds like you're comfortable with the loan going out and supporting effectively the outsourcing of Canadian jobs to subsidize them over in the People's Republic of China at a Chinese state-owned shipyard. And you're speaking of letters. I have your letter here dated June 16th, 2025, and it says, I am dismayed that BC Ferries would select a Chinese state-owned shipyard to build new ferries in the current geopolitical context. I ask you verify and confirm with the utmost certainty that no federal funding will be diverted to support the acquisition of these new ferries. Did you know that the Canada Infrastructure Bank was going to be funding $1 billion of taxpayers' money to the acquisition of these vessels when you wrote this letter?
So let me first take issue, if I may, with your opening comment. I am dismayed by this procurement. I have made that very, very clear. And it's not just rhetoric. I have acted. I'm the transport minister. I was and am aware that there is money that goes from transport operating support for the operation of ferries in British Columbia. It was very important to me to make formally clear an insistence that none of that operating money be used for this procurement, and I have received those assurances. Second of all, and as importantly, I am taking active steps to ensure that in going forward purchases of anything that Transport Canada has control over, we are putting a priority on Canadian manufacturing jobs, on Canadian steel, and on Canadian aluminum. We are not just talking about it, we are actually working to do it, and that is really important. And I have to say I was very encouraged by the conversation I had today with C-SPAN. They're excited to be part of this work.
Minister, any accountant will tell you that an operating budget will have payment down of debt. So BC Ferries will be using some of the federal monies that it'll have in its operating budget for servicing the debt to the Canada Infrastructure Bank. So that's superfluous to this. But you are the senior minister of you and Minister Robertson. Are you going to say in Cabinet, number one, we should cancel this loan in favor of steel and aluminum and shipbuilding here in Canada, yes or no?
I have been very clear in my testimony today before the committee, in the House of Commons, and in all my opportunities to speak formally about this, that I am disappointed by this procurement. And in fact, I think there is widespread disappointment across Canada with this procurement. In the areas that I'm responsible for as Transport Minister, I am ensuring that our procurement is favoring Canadian manufacturers, favoring Canadian steel and Canadian aluminum. That's why I sent out 71 letters in June to the agencies under my authority saying this is what we are going to be doing.
Minister, you have an opportunity to say no to this loan and to say yes to those conversations and put some heft behind it. It sounds to me you're like a ship sailing at night, seeing another one sail by, except those are our jobs going to China, to a shipyard that's owned and managed by the state. Minister, why aren't you saying, no, I won't support this loan? It's contrary to what the government's intentions are and what Canadians are asking for. Why are you picking the loan over your own letter?
I've been in politics for 12 years now, and I've been compared to many different things, but I think it's the first time I've been compared to a ship. But I've been compared to worse. And let me just say, Mr. Albas, that I am disappointed by this procurement. In the areas under my control as Transport Minister, I can assure you I am doing everything in my power to ensure that the agencies that Transport Canada is responsible for put a priority on Canadian manufacturing workers, Canadian steel and aluminum. And I just want to add, it's not just about statements. We have to work together, industry, all levels of government and unions, to be sure we have the capacity to use Canada's steel and aluminum. I am totally devoted to doing that.
Thank you very much.
Just a reminder, gang, smash the like, hit subscribe. We work really hard at this stuff. Let's get back to the video.
You mentioned your conversation with the president of C-SPAN. In the Globe and Mail, he argued that it's tax policy and red tape that prevents him from being able to be competitive in this space. So if you're not willing to cancel this loan agreement, will you work instead to lower taxes and to help make C-SPAN competitive so that they can actually compete in this space?
I had a very good conversation with the CEO of C-SPAN. He's very enthusiastic about the meeting we're going to have. What he mentioned to me was that Canadian workers earn more than workers in other jurisdictions, and they do, and that is a good thing. We want him to be providing high-paying, good jobs, and he does. And I told him that I absolutely understand that, and I support that. We committed together to working hard to get Canadian ferries using Canadian steel built at Canadian shipyards, including C-SPAN. And I did congratulate him on an MOU that he signed with Algoma Steel a couple of weeks ago to get Canadian steel into the icebreakers that he is building. And that's why, we need to get beyond talking points and talk about rewiring the supply chains in our country. We have to support our steel sector, our aluminum sector, softwood lumber, and that means convening the conversations with Canadian manufacturers to ensure that our steel, aluminum, and lumber sectors are producing the products that our manufacturers need. And governments do have a role to play here, ensuring that we are placing the orders there. And, I do want to go back to Mr. Lawrence because I worry about those same workers. These conversations can be really important because if we get orders placed now, then that fills up the order books of our steel mills, of our aluminum smelters. It gives them the confidence to keep on operating.
Minister, again, you have an opportunity. You could say, no, we don't want to have an industrial carbon tax, which will put our steel workers at a disadvantage. That is something that your government has said that they want to do. Now, Minister, do you support the review of the remission framework by the Prime Minister to target cheap foreign steel that come from countries like the PRC?
I was very glad as finance minister last June for the first time to announce that Canada would be putting tariffs of 25% on Chinese steel and 100% on Chinese EVs. We announced that last June, had a consultation, and in October of last year, for the first time, those tariffs went into place. So this is an issue that I've worked on for a long time,
Eric McNeely is
and
the
I have a
president
lot of
of
conviction there.
the BC Ferry and Marine Workers Union, and he wants to know why your government will say that it will put tariffs of 25% on cheap steel from countries like China, yet it seems like you're going to let this one go by tariff-free. Think of all the aluminum and all the steel components that go into making these ships, Minister. So what do you have to say to Eric McNeely and the people that he represents?
The voice of labor in these issues is absolutely essential, and that's why at the shipbuilding meeting that we are convening, we will be inviting unions to participate. It is absolutely important right now, given the tariffs the Canadian steel sector is facing, for us to find uses for Canadian steel in Canada, and I am utterly committed to doing that.
Minister, you know, those steel and aluminum tariffs were threatened by Donald Trump months ago, and yet it's only now that this committee started putting the heat on that you started this Made in Canada approach with those groups that are underneath your watch. So you won't say we want to cancel the industrial carbon tax. You won't say you're going to cut red tape and be competitive. You simply will refuse to. You're totally silent when it comes to the loan of $1 billion by the Canada Infrastructure Bank to offshore effectively Canadian jobs in steel, aluminum, and shipbuilding. And everything you're offering here, Minister, is talk. You have failed the test. It's August 1st. We have an executive order that's come in. You come to this committee and you talk. You're not willing to do the basics, which is to, no, let me just finish here.
Well, the
basics
seconds,
of standing up for Canadian workers. This was your opportunity. You and your government
Thank
have
you
failed.
very much, Mr. Albas.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics. My name's Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. We're going to wrap it up. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a comment below. Check out this playlist. Check out this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Aaron at Canadian Looney. Ciao for now. We'll catch you in the next one. Thanks again for watching. We're out.